Welcome back to the channel, folks. Days Gone. Out of Sony's first-party exclusives, like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and Spider-Man, Days Gone has always felt like the black sheep. Yeah, it wasn't critically acclaimed or a massive commercial success like all those titles, but it wasn't a huge flop either. It sold like 8 million copies over its lifetime, and was deemed worthy enough of the remaster treatment like Sony's other PS4 titles, that absolutely don't need them. The way Days Gone was criticized both before launch and in reviews always felt off to me, like people were actively looking for things to dislike, nitpicking small issues or unfairly comparing it to other games, instead of judging it on its own merits. I remember all the hate the game's lead Deacon St. John got before we even knew much about him. People hated his name, dismissed him as a generic wannabe badass, or complained that he was just another white male video game protagonist in an ocean of them. Honestly, using someone's race and gender feels like a pretty reductive reason to write off a character. That's not to say there weren't valid criticisms. Days Gone released when the post-apocalyptic zombie genre was beyond oversaturated. It was another open-world game with a familiar light RPG mechanics, crafting, and survival vision, the kind of stuff we'd seen dozens of times already. It also launched as a technical mess, and even fans agreed that the first half of the game is way too slow, taking hours before it really gets good. But even with all that, it always felt like Days Gone was judged more harshly than it deserved, because it wasn't The Last of Us, God of War, or Horizon Zero Dawn. And honestly, the Horizon comparison's interesting because it struggles with a lot of the same pacing and open world bloat issues that Days Gone gets hammered for, but it's still treated like one of the greatest games of all time. I'm not trying to dismiss Horizon or its fanbase, especially since I've only sunk about 10 hours into the first game myself, but there's definitely a sentiment online that the series is a little overrated, and I've noticed that players who've experienced both often feel like they got more out of Days Gone, even if they didn't think it was anything special. Obviously, not everyone shares the same opinion, and I'll judge for myself which game I think is better when I get around to reviewing Horizon. Still, Days Gone has always had vocal defenders that like the game for one reason or another. Its fanbase growing even more once it hit PC. Having finally played the game myself, yeah, I get the appeal. There's a lot to like here. Deacon St. John is a great lead, with Sam Witwer, aka Starkiller, delivering an excellent performance. The wilderness of Oregon is a unique and beautiful setting to explore on Deacon's motorcycle. Graphically, it's a pretty good looking game, especially on PC at max settings, though the character models on the other hand are kinda all over the place in quality. And while not particularly deep, the combat is pretty satisfying and fun. Still, it does have its issues, mostly with the writing and how slow the first 10 hours can be. So let's dive in and see what Days Gone does right, what it does wrong, and despite some big faults, why I still love my time with the game and consider it an underrated gem. Also, do all that fun YouTube algorithm stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're new.
Yeah, she's burning up. The knife must have nicked her kidney or something. She's turning septic. How you doing, little sister?
So stupid. It was this little kid. This goddamn little kid.
The goddamn knife. Hey, help me.
Shit.
Hey, Mom. You want to be when we come through? We gotta get to the roof, flag down one of those choppers. All right.
I'll be honest, Days Gone doesn't exactly come out swinging with originality in its opening. Tell me if this sounds familiar. The game kicks off right as society's collapsing, a deadly virus is turning people into bloodthirsty monsters, and our main character is trying to escape the chaos with his loved one, named Sarah. Then, during a government evacuation, surprise surprise, he gets separated from her. The game then properly begins after a time skip. Yeah, Days Gone's intro feels a lot like how The Last of Us begins, except while Joe lost his daughter Sarah when she was killed by a soldier, Deacon St. John was only separated from his wife, and she's just presumed dead. While their personal journeys of looking for a purpose in a world gone crazy are similar, Joel and Deke are very different characters, and their games go in wildly different directions. Oh, and I'm going to refer to Deacon as Deke going forward, as pretty much everyone in-game does. I'll get into his character later, but Deke reminds me more of John Marston from Red Dead Redemption than he does Joel. Also, unlike I normally do with a game of this size, where I dive into the story while slowly peppering in the various gameplay mechanics, and optional content you can do, I'm going to knock out the gameplay stuff first. So little happens in the story during the first 10 hours, I'd basically be doing that anyways in between the occasional cutscene.
So, you want to learn how to hunt? That what I'm hearing?
I know how to shoot a gun.
It's a rifle, not a gun.
I was in the 10th Mountain Cope. Don't give me any Marine Corps bullshit.
Killing a buck's a little different than killing a man. Or a freak.
Days Gone is set in the wilderness and rural backroads of northern Oregon. It's not a one-to-one recreation of the area, but it nails the overall vibe. Lush forests, winding rivers, hidden waterfalls, and an overgrown beauty that reminds you nature is still thriving after society collapsed. It captures that mix of serenity and isolation perfectly. I'm not from Oregon myself, but I did visit a few years back, and man, playing this game has me itching to return. Because of all the blocked highways, collapsed overpasses, and the general end-of-the-world road conditions, most of your exploration is going to happen on foot, or more ideally, by bike. Motorcycles aren't just Deke's preferred ride, they're everyone's. They make perfect sense in a world like this. More fuel efficient, easier to maintain, and nimble enough to weave through narrow forest paths and roads full of wreckage that would be a nightmare in a full-size car. Riding around the open world in a motorcycle feels so satisfying, even if Deke's bike is a bit underpowered at first. Still, it handles well, is quick on turns, threads through tight spaces without too much fuss, and feels built for the winding forest roads you'll be riding through. Though it does react somewhat realistically to different weather conditions, so you might skid out while on the road during a storm, and it's also pretty fragile early on. One bad crash or huge fall and your ride's out of commission. Thankfully, you don't have to hoof it back to a camp just to fix it. You can scavenge scrap from broken down cars or abandoned buildings, and repair your bike on the spot. You do need gas to get around though, even when fast traveling, limiting which fast travel points you can go to based on distance and required fuel. If you run out in the middle of nowhere, you'll have to find a gas can, push it to a refueling station, or pay to fill up at a camp. It's more of a hassle early on, but the game does mark where you can find fuel on your map when you're running low, and you can refuel for free back at Deke's base camp. Thankfully, the restrictions on fuel and bike durability don't apply during most story missions. The game also lets you steal an enemy's bike too if you can't return to or repair your own. And when you reach a camp, you can pay to have your bike retrieved. So there's never really a situation where you'll be forced to walk far to reach a camp if something happens to your motorcycle. Upgrading your bike also further alleviates any issues you run into. As you start working with and earning trust with camps, you can sink credits into tuning up your ride. A better engine for speed, NOS for an extra boost, stronger frame for durability, a bigger fuel tank, even wheels that grip better in bad weather. You even have some customization options too. Change the paint job, slap on decals, and even unlock a few crossover items, like the BB fuel tank from Death Stranding. Easily the best upgrade in the game. Your ability to upgrade your motorcycle is limited by which encampments you've unlocked, and your trust level with them, so it'll take a while to build the perfect ride.
See if they got an underground bunker around here.
I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you.
Let's swing back to the game's world and all you can do in it. I'll be frank, Days Gone isn't reinventing the open world genre. In fact, compared to other AAA titles, the world can feel a little barren at times. But to its credit, it avoids some of the usual bloat. You're not climbing towers to unlock the map, and it doesn't overload you with hundreds of points of interest markers. There's enough meaningful side content sprinkled throughout that it never feels like you're just ticking boxes off a checklist. And outside of missions for camps, most of the optional stuff isn't marked on your map, and you'll stumble upon them while exploring the world. At the most basic level, you can gather herbs and hunt wildlife. Kinda. There's no in-depth hunting system, or skinning pelts to craft gear. Herbs and meat from the wildlife you kill are turned in for credits, and to grind out your trust with a camp. Next, dotted around the map are ambush camps, which is filled with murderous bandits who usually cause headaches for the local encampments. They're basically the output missions you've seen before in Far Cry. They become a fast travel point when you clear them out, and other than serving as places you can rest or swap out your weapons, you'll usually find crafting recipes after clearing the camp. While definitely derivative, clearing ambush camps avoids feeling too repetitive, thanks to the varied camp layouts and environmental hazards. Also, bandits will occasionally ambush you while you're riding around the map, sniping you off your bike or attacking when you ride into their trap. Of course, you'll also be dealing with the infected. Freakers are everywhere, and the most dangerous zones are marked as infestation zones. Clusters of nests where freakers hibernate during the day. You'll need Molotovs to clear out their nests and enable fast travel through the area. Actually finding a nest can be tricky, and things can get dangerous depending on how many freakers are around. Also, some infestation zones are near hordes, and if you stumble into one unprepared, you're done for. Finally, there are narrow checkpoints, abandoned government outposts where you can search for supplies. They're locked up and you'll need to restore power by refueling generators, replacing fuses, and sometimes disabling loudspeakers so you don't attract nearby freakers. Most checkpoints hold narrow injectors, a booster shot that will permanently increase your health, stamina, or focus. You can choose which stat you want to boost, but I'd argue it's best to prioritize focus and stamina in the early game, as it'll make it easier to kill enemies and also run away if things go bad. Overall, while feeling repetitive, narrow checkpoints are worth checking out. Also, you'll learn some lore tidbits about how shit collapsed during the apocalypse. Days Gone's side content won't blow your mind, but it pulls its weight. It strikes a decent balance, enough variety and rewards to keep things interesting, without slipping into the checklist fatigue that plagues so many open world games.
Deke. Good. Got something you might be interested in.
Yeah, don't bet on it, Cope. I'm busy.
Too busy to hear about a Ripper camp? Here, in the Cascade Wilderness?
Rippers up here? Where?
Thought you might be interested.
Next, let's talk about encampments, the friendly flip side to ambush camps. These small settlements sell supplies, offer jobs, and upgrades to your bike. Each camp uses its own currency and trust system, so if you want the best weapons and upgrades, you'll need to put in the work for each one, completing jobs, turning in freaker ears and animal meat, and clearing out ambush camps. It's a smart system that reinforces the idea that each faction is self-contained, and doesn't fully trust outsiders or other camps. You'll also occasionally run into a survivor out on their own being attacked by freakers, or held hostage by marauders. After saving them, you can then send them to one of the encampments to earn more trust and credits. But the fastest and most consistent way to build trust is by completing jobs for each camp. Outside of the more narrative-heavy story missions, camp jobs fall into three main categories, or storylines as the game calls them. First is Protecting the Weak, your standard rescue mission. You track a missing camp member, follow their trail to a marauder camp, wipe the place out, and bring them back in one piece. Nice and simple. Next is the Bounty Hunter storyline. Here you're sent to track down a target, capture them or kill them outright depending on the mission, while also killing any buddies they had. When it's a capture mission, things get trickier. The target hops on a bike and takes off the second you find them, and if your own ride isn't upgraded enough, good luck catching up. They've usually got backup too, with other bikers trying to shoot you off the road. You're limited to using your sidearm during these chases, so if you're still rocking a basic pistol, the damage output isn't great. Honestly, the hardest part is just getting back on your bike fast enough to even start the chase. My advice, park your bike as close to the spawn point as possible, facing the direction they'll take off in. And if you're quick, you can use focus to land a few early shots before mounting up, which can end the chase faster. Thankfully, once you finish the job, the camp handles retrieval, so you don't have to ride all the way back with the hostage or target in tow. Last up are the Ripped Apart and Marauder Camp Hunter storylines, which are just the ambush camps with some extra steps. Camp jobs won't win any points for creativity, but they don't get tedious or too repetitive. I should mention that some of these jobs are technically mandatory, as you'll have to do a few of them before the next story mission unlocks.
What the hell? Boozer, are you awake?
Yeah, Deke. What's up?
I just saw someone sneaking around the safe house.
What the hell? What's he doing?
No idea. I'm gonna follow him, see if there's some more where he came from. Deacon out.
Combat in Days Gone comes down to three styles: stealth, melee, and ranged. Stealth is effective early on, crouching through bushes, luring enemies with rocks, using suppressors, or the crossbow for quiet headshots, or Deke's boot knife for an up-close silent kill. It's simple but can be really satisfying when thinning out enemy camps without ever being spotted. Melee is more of a backup plan. Makeshift weapons are everywhere, but they break quickly and even strong ones take multiple hits to actually kill something. You can improve them with perks and crafting, but by the late game, they're outclassed by everything else. Ranged combat, on the other hand, is easily the most dominant style. You start with weak gear and limited ammo, but once you've built trust, spot better guns, and unlock focus mode, you'll be mowing down enemies left and right. Ammo becomes more plentiful, and weapon variety is huge. Pistols, SMGs, shotguns, snipers, you name it. With the beefier weapons feeling and sounding so damn good as you gun down freakers. Still, even with a better arsenal, you're still limited to one firearm of each weapon type: sidearm, primary, and special. And you'll still want to make use of cover with human enemies to avoid getting shot to pieces in seconds. So even when you get your hands on better firearms, you won't completely trivialize every encounter. Like a lot of open world games, Days Gone brings in some light RPG elements to round out the experience. Killing enemies, completing missions, clearing nests, everything you do earns XP, which helps Deke level up and unlock skill points. These points can be spent across 3 skill trees: survival, melee, and ranged. It's a simple system, but honestly that works in its favor. There's no fluff here, each perk you unlock feels like it matters. You're not wasting points on a 2% increase to your reload speed or garbage like that. The survival tree helps you stay alive out in the wild. Perks like Eye for Detail highlight items longer when using Deke's survival vision, which makes scavenging a breeze. Thief in the Night makes you quieter while sneaking and falling from heights, making stealth easier. Over in the melee tree, you've got practical boosts for up-close combat. Field Repair lets you use scrap to fix your melee weapons on the fly. And Escape Artist gives you a chance to kill enemies instantly when breaking free from grabs. Then there's the Range tree, which focuses on improving your firearms. There's Focus Shot, which is probably the first perk you should grab, as it unlocks Deke's focus meter, letting you slow down time and line up headshots during combat, with higher perks increasing how long it lasts or how fast it recovers. There's no wrong way to build Deke. By the end of the game, you'll likely have unlocked almost everything anyways, so it really comes down to your playstyle. And this wouldn't be an open world game without some sort of crafting system. You can make healing items, explosives, traps, and distractions using materials you scavenge. You can craft mid-fight, and the game slows down while you do, giving you some breathing room to react to whatever you're fighting. Alrighty, before we dive into the story, let's quickly go over the different enemy types, starting with the human ones. There's not a ton of variety here. Outside of which faction they belong to, most of them fight the same way and only really differ in appearance. Still, they're not total pushovers. Enemies will investigate strange sounds, alert others if they find a body, and once they spot you, they'll loudly call out your position and open fire. They won't just rush in blindly either. Unless they're stuck with melee weapons, they'll move toward cover, shoot from a distance, and toss molotovs or pipe bombs to flush you out of your cover. Some will even try to flank you if the layout allows it. Also, I'm not sure if this is intentional, but they do seem more aggressive when they got backup from a sniper or a heavy gunner, sometimes disregarding cover to fight in the open or to close in on you, possibly to bait you into attacking them so that their backup can attack you. That said, most human enemies are pretty squishy and can be taken out easily with a headshot while using focus. The real threat comes later in the game when they start wearing body armor and helmets. At that point, you'll need to lean on throwables and sustain fire to punch through the defenses and keep them from swarming you. It's in the late game when you're fighting groups on the same playing field as you that stealth becomes more viable again, as when it's allowed, you're better off playing it safe, picking off a camp, than getting into a firefight. Finally, let's go over Days Gone's take on rage zombies, the Freakers, which honestly is probably the worst name a piece of media has used for zombies when they don't want to say zombies, but their behavior and lore are surprisingly unique. They're not undead and lean closer to the infected from 28 Days Later. They need to eat and rest, hence why they build nests to hibernate, and they're not picky eaters either. Freakers will feast on humans, animals, and later it's revealed that they even started feeding on plants. And uniquely for this genre, Freakers will even eat each other, with the different variants attacking and killing each other. You'll sometimes see newts banding together to fend off swarmers, or a massive breaker tearing through nearby infected like they're nothing. It gives this world this extra layer of chaos, making the Freakers a dangerously unpredictable foe. On top of that, they're constantly mutating and evolving. Some are stronger, faster, or smarter than others, and by the end of the game, it's clear that they're becoming something far more intelligent than anyone expected. Swarmers and their slightly tougher albino variant, Bleachers, are the most common Freaker you'll run into. They're weak and easy to take down solo or in small groups, but when they swarm together to become a horde, they become a relentless wall of death. They're a lot more durable than you'd expect for a basic enemy type, able to tank several pistol shots, or melee hits before dying. They'll even try to guard their heads when you go for headshots. While the virus is 100% lethal to young children, older kids who survive become newts. Weak but nimble, these creepy kids stick to the high ground to avoid getting attacked by adult swarmers. They won't attack Deke on sight, usually keeping their distance and only pouncing on him when he's low on health. The remaining Freaker types won't start appearing regularly until after they're introduced in boss fights during the story. Breakers are hulking brutes, mini-boss tier enemies that take a shitload amount of punishment and can kill Deke in just a few hits. You need to constantly keep your distance while unloading on it to take it down. Screamers are female Freakers that aren't very strong, but can stun Deke with a piercing scream that also lures in nearby swarmers. And finally, Reachers, the most evolved and dangerous type. These guys are fast, hit hard, and use hit and run tactics to wear you down while avoiding your attacks. I wasn't all that impressed with the Reacher when it was introduced. I get that the white fur on its body is meant to invoke similarities to a werewolf, but I think it just looks way too goofy. That, and despite the build-up to how dangerous it is before its boss fight, I took it down pretty fast. It was only much later in the game when I was ambushed by a different Reacher at night that it felt intimidating, especially since it was considerably more durable, almost on par with a Breaker, which also showed up while I was fighting it. Finally, the game's standout enemy and the selling point of its marketing, the Horde. A terrifying swarm of hundreds of Freakers that'll sweep over you like a tidal wave of death, kinda like the ones you see in World War Z. Since they're not marked on the map until the endgame, your first encounter with them will probably be by accident, before you're promptly murdered, and you won't stand a chance against them until the late game. Horde encounters are full-on boss fights, and the ultimate test of your abilities. You gotta plan ahead, bring some serious firepower, craft explosives, survey the area, and make the best use of your surroundings to lure the Horde into traps while also outrunning them. One wrong move and you'll be overwhelmed instantly. With their speed, relentlessness, and how it can feel like there's just no end to them, it's an anxiety-inducing experience fighting and staying alive. But goddamn does it feel satisfying when you finally beat them. There's also hostile wildlife like wolves, bears, and cougars, along with their deadlier infected variants. Overall, I think the enemy variety is great, and I love the chaos of free-for-alls with marauders, animals, and freakers. I feel like the game takes too long to start introducing the stronger freaker variants, so encounters with swarmers can feel dull and repetitive for a while unless you accidentally startle a horde. With all that out of the way, let's get into the story of Days Gone.
Shit, she's alive. Alvarez, hey. Alvarez, what happened here? I mean, who did this? Was it Rippers?
Leon did this.
Picking up 2 years after the outbreak, we find Deke and Boozer in the middle of tracking down a drifter named Leon, who stole medicine from a local camp. The chase that follows acts as a tutorial. Riding, shooting, tracking, but narratively it's just a setup. Leon's already bleeding out from a gunshot when they corner him, and he begs for a quick death in exchange for the medicine's location. He wants to die with a little bit of dignity, and not get torn apart by the nearby horde of freakers. Deke agrees, but he hesitates, only pulling the trigger after Leon calls him out for not honoring his word.
You goddamn liar! Do it.
On the way back to their bikes, Deke realizes during the chase Leon shot his fuel tank, leaving his motorcycle crippled. While it'd be safer to come back in the morning, he decides they should scavenge for a replacement part nearby while it's still light out. Boozer reluctantly agrees, and once they arrive at the rundown mechanic shop, he'll stay on guard outside while Deke searches the place. Just as he finds what he needs, Deke hears screaming and rushes outside, finding Boozer getting attacked by the Rippers. These bald, self-mutilating psychos are the local crazy cult that terrorize the other factions. Obsessed with pain and constantly high on drugs, they worship the Freakers and believe the infection is a blessing everyone should embrace, killing anyone who disagrees. They're in the middle of trying to make Boozer just like them, by holding him down and burning the tattoos off his arm with a blowtorch. Oof, that's brutal. Deke kills the Rippers and saves his buddy, but not before Boozer suffers severe burns that leave him barely conscious.
Alright, pretty much like we left it. What? Not like there's much to steal. just gonna reintroduce myself. Oh, thank God.
I'm gonna go out and find some shit for your arm. You get my bike. You gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Back at their hideout, Deke immediately shifts his focus to helping Boozer recover by finding sterilized bandages, to hopefully avoid an infection. However, there's a little more going on. Boozer has been wanting them to leave the area for a while now, to head north, abandon the drifter life, and start over somewhere new. Deke has been wishy-washy about it for just as long, only agreeing for Boozer's sake and because he feels partially responsible for what happened to his arm. Before moving on, let's talk about our lead, Deacon St. John.
Deacon St. John? Is your old man a preacher or something?
No.
Man, that is a hell of a name.
All right, listen.
Most of his past is gradually revealed over the course of the game, but for the sake of efficiency, here's what you need to know. Before the outbreak, Deke served in the army, doing a full tour in Afghanistan as part of the 10th Mountain Division. While he served with honor, he hated his time in the army, and after a Taliban ambush killed his entire squad, he left the military behind. Returning to the good old US of A, he bought a motorcycle and drifted across the country for a few years until he ended up in Oregon, finding work at a mechanic shop. The shop's owner, Jack, also happened to be the president of the Mongrels Motorcycle Club. Jack patched Deke into the club himself, and for the first time since the war, Deke felt like he belonged somewhere. He embraced the freedom of the biker lifestyle, and formed a lifelong bond with Boozer, who was patched in not long after him. Then came Sarah. Deke met her on the side of the road one day as she tried to fix her car. The two hit it off instantly and began dating soon after. Sarah worked as a researcher for a pharmaceutical company and was devoted to using her work to try and help people. That passion inspired Deke to change and do more with his life. He stepped back from the MC, focused more on his relationship with Sarah, and eventually he proposed. Neither her family, who looked down on Deke, nor the Mongrels, who thought Sarah was making their buddy soft, were thrilled about the marriage. But Boozer still supported them, and was the only one who actually showed up to their wedding. Quick aside, but am I the only person who didn't think it was cringe or see anything wrong when Deacon and Sarah's marriage was shown in trailers? Like, a lot of people online were making a big deal about Deke wearing his biker cut, or Sarah's wedding vow.
Here, you can have this one back. But only if you promise to ride me as much as you ride your bike.
But that's just kind of how biker weddings go down. I guess it's not as common knowledge as I thought it was, but it always felt like such a nitpicky complaint, and like people were just looking for excuses to hate on Days Gone. Moving on, things were going great for the couple. Then the world ended. Sarah was stabbed during the chaos, and as we saw in the prologue, Deke stayed behind with Boozer so Sarah could get onto the narrow evacuation chopper, heading to the refugee camp. But by the time he reached the camp himself, it had already been overrun. All Deke found was bodies, and despite checking dozens upon dozens of them, Deke never found Sarah, just a promise he couldn't keep. In the present, he regularly makes trips to the camp, and visits the gravestone he made for Sarah. Speaking to the memory of his dead wife, Deke will catch her up on what's currently going down in the plot, and these moments offer a small measure of relief from his stress. However, Boozer thinks Deke's regular visits up there are doing more harm than good, as it keeps him from truly moving on, and is partially why Deke has been resistant to leave the area for a better place. If it wasn't obvious from his backstory, Deke was a drifter long before the world ended. Always moving, always searching for something. Sarah became that something. She loved him unconditionally, saw the good in him, and gave him something to believe in. And without her, Deke feels empty. While he did the right thing in getting her on that helicopter, he still blames himself for her death, just like he blames himself for Boozer's injury. Deke's character journey, for the first half of the game anyways, is about learning to forgive himself, to process his grief, and to finally accept the possibility that Sarah might be gone, even if there was never a body to bury. Though it does take time for Deke to grow, so he isn't entirely likable during the early portions of the game. He tends to be standoffish, abrasive when speaking to anyone who isn't Boozer, and gets annoyed when he's roped into the problems of other encampments. Despite his dickishness, the people who meet Deke still tend to be friendly, appreciate the work he does for their camp, and respect his ability to get shit done. Also, to Deke's credit, he has valid reasons for being a jerk to the camps he helps out, like say someone stealing his bike, stripping it for parts, and offering a limp-dick apology, despite the fact anyone in the area would have known it was Deke's bike. Ain't that right, Manny?
Manny, I'm looking for a bike.
Yeah? Oh, you don't want that one.
Why not?
It just came off the truck. I mean, some dumb son of a bitch left it out in the shit. Rusted up good. It rode hard, too. The fool that rode it didn't know shit about bikes.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Shot the hell this one. I mean, we just partied it out. I mean, it didn't even have a fuel pump. We could have used that.
Man, fuel pump like this one?
Okay.
Like this one, Manny.
Okay. See, now when I said fool, what I meant was the fools that brought that bike in. See, they didn't tie that shit down properly, so they left it like rattling around back there.
Deke,
and...
let's talk.
Looks like you had some trouble.
Got hit hard last night. Rippers again. Twice now they've been up here. Some say looking for you and Boozer.
Out in the shit, folks say a lot of things.
Wait a minute, I recognize that voice.
Crispin Freeman!
You coward! Show me some guts!
Stop yelling at me, Crispin!
It is Crispin Freeman. Weird. Despite the fact he's still a very active voice actor in the anime scene, and has been in tons of recent games I've played, for some reason it feels like it's been years since I've last heard him. The guy's got great range. It's only now that I'm remembering he's the voice of Winston in Overwatch too. I guess I'm more used to the gruff voice he'd use in mid-2000s anime like Noeen and Wolf's Rain, which is why I instantly recognized him as Copeland. Oh, and before anyone asks, yes, that was Spider-Man in that clip I showed. Alright, enough weeb shit, let's move on. Mark Copeland is a conspiracy nut, survivalist, and a gun-loving libertarian. Before the outbreak, Copeland ran a pirate radio station called Radio Free Oregon, broadcasting anti-government rants and warnings about the ends of days while driving around in his van. 2 years later, even with the government he hated now gone, he's still broadcasting his rants on the radio. Copeland's blunt, paranoid, and a bit much to deal with. Like a lot to deal with, actually. You're forced to hear his rants constantly throughout the game, after helping him get Radio Free Oregon back up after it was sabotaged. While obnoxious, he's not a bad guy, shows Deke respect, and genuinely cares for the people under his protection, but only his people. Remember that stash of medicine Leon stole? He was stealing them to sell them to Copeland. To be fair, the camp they were stolen from aren't exactly saints either. Arguably they're way worse than Copeland's camp, but it just goes to show that there's no real love between the different settlements and factions. They won't attack each other needlessly, but they have no problems fucking over the other for their own benefit. Which is why Deke is always so reluctant to help any of them and get wrapped up in their bullshit. Copeland doesn't really apologize for his boys salvaging Deke's bike, but he's willing to help him out if Deke does some jobs for him. He even gives him a crappy bike for free as amends for the one that was salvaged. Now that Deke has some wheels again, the game opens up and you're free to start exploring the map, take on camp jobs or complete optional objectives. And this is when we run into Days Gone's biggest issue. As for the next 10 hours, you're just doing busy work. There's some small storylines and important characters introduced, but the game's story doesn't actually move until you reach Lost Lake. That's when things really pick up, introducing major characters and story missions become bigger with unique set pieces or objectives that differentiate them from camp jobs. The first 10 hours are effectively filler, but it may not feel that way if you're enjoying the game, and focused on leveling up Deke, upgrading his bike, and unlocking better guns. But if Days Gone hasn't hooked you yet, gameplay can feel repetitive, and like it's a slog to get through until you reach Lost Lake. Honestly, it didn't feel like a slog for me, and those 10 hours just flew by, but I also have a lot of free time. So how long it takes for Days Gone to get good is going to vary by person. If you focus on the storylines and camp missions, you can speedrun it and shave a few hours off. For the sake of time, I'm just going to skim through what happens during those 10 hours to get to Lost Lake, where the real meat of Days Gone begins. After Copeland, Deke helps Ada Tucker, or just Tuck. She's the one who hired him to get the drugs from Leon, and is the leader of the Hot Springs camp. Like the other camp leaders, she expects anyone at her encampment to work to earn their keep. Her encampment is basically a forced labor camp, and her people are forced to do backbreaking work all day long. Oh, and anyone who can't hack it, and rather take their chances out in the wilderness, aren't allowed to leave. Survivors who end up at her camp are basically slaves. It's not implied or subtext, by the way, even if Tuck doesn't see it that way. Other camps despise Tuck for what she does, and several characters call out Deke for willingly helping her and trying to downplay how he helps her. And yeah, I kinda agree with them. Not helping his case is that Deke agrees to track down and bring back a woman Tuck's people saw scavenging in an abandoned town. And when Deke does find her, he basically tricks a girl into slavery.
Don't be afraid. I'm not gonna hurt you. Are you alone? Is there, anyone else with you? Oh, man. Okay, Is this your room? It's really great. Are these yours?
No!
Lisa.
That's mine! This one's for gymnastics. I should have won first place, but Missy King, she cheated.
Lisa!
Laura Bailey, is that you? Man, I haven't heard your voice on this channel since, what, the video on Saints Row the 3rd? Almost 2 years ago? Wow, how time flies. Sorry, I need to stay focused. But oh my god, this entire encounter with Lisa is so uncomfortable. This poor kid was separated from her parents, had no idea what to do or how to find them, and has spent the last 2 years waiting for them all alone. It's a miracle she managed to survive for so long, and avoid being noticed. Deke might be the first person she's spoken to in years. To his credit, Deke tries to be delicate with Lisa. He keeps his distance, assures her he isn't a threat, and avoids being blunt about her parents probably being dead. Though that would mean he'd have to confront the same possibility of Sarah's fate. Still, he knows he can't force Lisa to leave, so he lies to her that her mom is back at the Hot Springs camp. Regardless of the camp arguably being a safer option than Lisa surviving alone, even if Deke knows she's going to be devastated when her mom isn't there, I still lost a lot of respect for him. I spent the whole ride back feeling guilty as fuck, hoping there'd be a subversion, and for a moment it looks like there might be. When we reach camp, Lisa admits she knew deep down her mom wouldn't be there, and Tuck, who turns out to have been her neighbor, even softens up and comforts her. For about 5 seconds. The second Lisa's out of earshot, Tuck chastises Deke for asking her to go easy on Lisa, and she fully intends to work that girl just as hard as everyone else, regardless of their history, what Lisa went through, or the fact that she's just 17 years old. Like, wow, what an absolute bitch. In a game with murderous bandits and a cult of psychos, Tuck manages to be the most unlikable character in Days Gone. Also, you're probably not gonna like Deke for a while either, as while he cares enough to check in on Lisa, he downplays her situation, and won't get the girl out of there when she begs to go with him. It's not until Rippers raid the camp and kidnap several people, including Lisa, that Deke finally spurs into action. He tracks her down and massacres the Rippers responsible, finds her alive, but Lisa was tortured while taken captive. Finally using common sense that a forced labor camp isn't a good place to send a traumatized teenager, Deke reaches out to a friend of his from Lost Lake, Ricky. She agrees to take Lisa in and Deke will hand her off to her. Lisa's story isn't over just yet, but fuck, I have no idea what the hell the writers were thinking when it came to working for Tuck. Lisa is meant to be a morality pet for Deke, to show he's still capable of caring for others, but it's handled in the clunkiest way imaginable. It makes Deke's character look worse. Alrighty, let's wrap up this section. Deke discovers Nero is still around and are running field tests to study the Freakers. He learns the Nero researcher he left Sarah with, O'Brien, is still alive. Getting his hands on a Nero radio and tracking him down, Deke interrogates the guy to learn their helicopter never made it to the refugee camp, and was instead diverted south to a different camp. O'Brien doesn't know what happened to that camp, or Sarah, but he got her treatment, put an IV in her arm, and despite getting reprimanded for it, got her to a MASH unit. She was alive the last time he saw her. O'Brien promises to look into what happened to her, and will be in touch when he learns something. Deke is left speechless and overwhelmed at the possibility she might be alive, but tries his best not to get his hopes up. Meanwhile, Boozer's condition keeps getting worse. After his buddy comes down with a severe fever, stressed out, Deke tries to calm down and think about what to do, focusing on how nice Sarah's ass was. Oh, and what she told him about using lavender to make a medical salve. It buys Boozer some time, but it's not enough, and he develops blood poisoning. Boozer becomes delirious, hallucinating, and hearing voices, almost shooting Deke because of his delusions. With no other options to help his buddy, Deke swallows his pride and rides to Lost Lake, hoping their doctor can save Boozer. Well, actually, due to the bad blood between him and the camp's leader Iron Mike, Deke tries stealing the antibiotics Boozer needs, but is caught by Ricky and the camp's doctor Addie. Even though she never met Boozer and needs to get Iron Mike's permission first, Addie won't turn him away and asks to see him. So Ricky and Deke ride out to scoop up Boozer. Oh, and it turns out Lisa ran away during a supply run. Deke is frustrated no one tried to stop her or look for her, but Ricky reminds them they can't force Lisa to stay if she doesn't want to. With how much he made things worse for her, Deke wonders if maybe he should have left Lisa back where he found her. Don't worry though, we'll see her again, doing slightly better. Bringing Boozer to Addie, she admits he may not make it. She'll need more antibiotics to treat him, and more importantly, time. So the best chance Boozer has at surviving is if Iron Mike lets him and Deke stay. Forced to confront the inevitable, Deke leaves with Ricky to speak with Iron Mike and ask if they can stay.
You cannot believe a word he is going to say. Addie is soft. Mike, we do not have enough for those that pull their own weight, let alone a goddamn cripple.
He's not a cripple. He can work.
I say we throw them out on their asses.
Mike, that is not who we are.
Jesus, listen to you. And you tired of being Tucker's little bitch, finally?
Raymond, stop it.
Don't call me that.
I'm pretty tired, all right. All right,
enough! See? You know who the fuck this guy is, and you know what he—
You hold on! And you put that shit away.
Time for some introductions. First is Iron Mike's head of security, Schizo. The doctor of thugonomics here grew up on the cold hard streets of Sacramento, California. Before the end of the world, he was a big-time gangbanger moving drugs from Cali to Oregon. All the gangs feared him, all the police feared him. Schizo was unstoppable. If that all sounds like bullshit, well, that's because it is. In actuality, Schizo grew up privileged and was a college frat boy. He made up this persona to come off as cool and intimidating, with absolutely no one buying it. Honestly, I'm amazed they humor him by calling him by his street name Schizo, and not his actual name Raymond. Despite expecting him to be the comic relief, or maybe the camp fuck-up, Schizo is fairly competent at his job, reliable in a shootout, and is far more intelligent than you'd think. This dumbass somehow graduated college with high honors. Maybe he just cheated. Though he is pretty full of himself, extremely reckless, often taking action behind Iron Mike's back, and it's obvious to everyone Schizo wants to lead the camp. Ironically, despite the fact they hate each other, Deke and Schizo have a lot in common too. Next up, we got Ricky, Iron Mike's second in command. Before the end of the world, she was working as a mechanical engineer. She used to ride with Deke and Boozer before the three of them settled down at Lost Lake, and chose to remain there after Deke's falling out with Iron Mike. She's probably the most sensible of the four people in the room. Like Iron Mike, she prioritizes the safety of their camp and avoiding needless fights. She's also in a relationship with the camp doctor, Addie. Finally, the big man himself and founder of the Lost Lake camp, Iron Mike. A tough old man who's seen more than his share of loss, as he used to be part of Sherman's camp. He watched as the camp slowly deteriorated as tensions rose, eventually splitting into two factions that destroyed the other. Iron Mike and Nora, a woman mentioned once and never again, were the only survivors of the massacre. Haunted by what happened and his inaction in trying to stop the bloodshed, Iron Mike tries to take a more peaceful approach whenever he can. He believes most people can be reasoned with, even when it's painfully obvious they can't, like the Rippers. He's not stupid though, he'll fight if he has to, especially when it comes to defending his own. Mike and Deke have a complicated relationship, almost like father and son. Both men respect the other but clash hard over Mike's pacifist stance, which is what led to the bad blood between them and Deke ultimately leaving Lost Lake with Boozer. While Iron Mike is the most reasonable and capable of the three camp leaders we've seen so far, I gotta take Deke's side on this. Unlike the other camps, Iron Mike has managed to avoid too much trouble with the Rippers by getting them to agree to a treaty. Both sides have their designated territory and agree not to cross over into the others. Schizo and Deke both agree it's reckless to think the Rippers' leader Carlos will honor their treaty. Wait, the leader of the Rippers is just some guy named Carlos? Well, I think we all agree Carlos is a cool name. That's my first name, by the way. It's kind of a mundane name for the leader of a psycho cult. You'd expect something more religious sounding, like Cain or Dante, or demonic sounding like Azazel or Gangrel, or a title that your followers refer to even if the heroes don't, like the Father, the Governor, or Lord Humongous. Sorry if I'm harping on this a little bit, but I just explained why Schizo fabricated this fake persona of himself, and as stupid as it is, the Doctor of Thugonomics put more effort into it than Carlos. Just feels like they don't take Carlos seriously, or that they don't know him on some personal level before he went crazy. Or maybe he named himself after his favorite YouTuber, me. Actually no, that doesn't make sense, the world ended before I even started my channel. Alright, moving on. Iron Mike isn't unreasonable. He knows Deke sent Lisa to him and that he stopped doing runs for Tucker. Which isn't actually true, as you could still keep doing camp missions for her after this point if you want, and she'll still call him up every now and then. Despite their past and differences in philosophy, Iron Mike doesn't judge Deke for his more heinous actions. No one's hands are really clean in this world, so he's willing to let him and Boozer stay, so long as Deke puts in the work at camp and respects his authority. As a heads up, if you want to experience Days Gone for yourself, now's a good time to actually leave the video, as I'm going to spoil the rest of the story. Cool, now that Iron Mike gives us the okay to stay, it's time to track down the traumatized teenager he immediately lost after she arrived. Deke tracks down Lisa's last known location, but all he finds is a letter in her handwriting saying all she wants to do is forget. Woof. The more I think about it, the less sense it makes that everyone fumbled helping Lisa, not just Deke. Both Iron Mike and Ricky are shown to be compassionate, patient people, which is exactly why Deke trusted them with her. Iron Mike especially, given what he went through at Sherman's camp. Seems like he'd try to connect with Lisa, like as the kind camp grandpa or something. Take her hunting, reassure her, tell her she's safe now, something. Or at the very least ease her into camp life. Have her help Addie, who already plays therapist for Deke and Boozer half the time, so we know she could be a shoulder to cry on. Give Lisa a routine, a purpose, anything to keep her from spiraling. It's never stated how much time passes between Lisa's arrival and her disappearance, but it doesn't feel long. Maybe a couple days tops. I get what the writers were going for, that in this brutal world kids have to grow up fast and fend for themselves. And that might have worked, if Lisa were the protagonist, or if there were literally any other kids around to sell that idea. But outside of Lisa and the infected newts, it feels like all kids just died off. Still, her arc, like Deke's guilt and sense of responsibility, is clunky. Lisa's growth into a self-reliant survivor feels less like earned development, and more like a result of everyone else failing her. It makes the good guys look bad by comparison. If Lisa had just been written as a young adult, instead of a teenager, all of this would have made way more sense. Probably would have helped if we saw her more than twice after this, but oh well. With Lisa's story put on pause for a while, it's time to shift our focus to Deke's actual morality pet, Boozer, and see how he's doing.
Hey, I came by to see how the lazy bastard's doing. How you doing, Booze, man? Are you tired of laying around yet? Boozer. Hey,
you can't be in here, Deacon.
Come on. Hey,
Come
what's
on,
going on?
Deacon.
How's he doing?
He needs his rest.
Don't mess around with me, Addie. I asked you, how is he doing?
I'm good.
Not good.
Damn, it's cold.
They're not enough. They're never enough.
No, wait a second. You said that
I said that we would try. Look, all we can do is wait.
Okay. All right.
Deacon.
No, there's... you know what? There's something I can do about this.
Stop,
I can get...
Stop!
What?
I know you want to smash something. I see that look in your eyes, but you know what? You go right ahead, but you do it out there.
Addie,
go.
I can...
Look, there is nothing else you can do. Please, just go home. Go home, Deacon.
Deacon.
See what I said about Addie? The way she handles Deke, she could have done something to help Lisa settle in. Stellar work as always by Deborah Wilson, who you probably know from Suicide Squad, or Jedi Fallen Order, or Forspoken, or maybe Wolfenstein 2. Man, is Deborah Wilson the only black woman working in AAA gaming? Or do these different development studios have a base Deborah Wilson character model they all share with each other? Before Deke has a moment to cool off, Schizo sees the perfect opportunity to exploit him. Sorry, I mean offer a solution to the Boozer problem. Schizo recounts a story from a drifter who used to be an air traffic controller about a plane from the Red Cross that mysteriously disappeared south of Mount Washington. Apparently it was some type of controlled crash, so the plane should be mostly intact with all of its supplies inside. Problem is, Skizzo hasn't been able to confirm if it's real due to one major problem. That plane's smack dab in the middle of Ripper territory. If he or anyone from the camp gets spotted sneaking around, the treaty is over and Carlos will start shit up again. Since Deke is a drifter, worst case scenario if he gets spotted while inside, as long as he doesn't get spotted returning to Lost Lake, the treaty should be good. While Deke is skeptical, more meds are Boozer's only chance of survival. Despite seeming like a setup for a forced stealth mission, you pretty much go guns blazing on every Ripper that comes your way. Deke will eventually reach the plane's wreckage, but has to take out the breaker guarding it. Grabbing the box of antibiotics, Deke runs to his bike and rides the hell out of there with Rippers chasing him. Or I think that's what's happening. The cutscene doesn't show them, just Skizzo and his guys reacting to and shooting them. I wasn't sure if I'd bring it up, but in some cutscenes things just happen off-screen, or weirdly sometimes it'll fade to black within the same scene. Sometimes it's just to be concise, others to shift the camera around the scene. It doesn't ruin these moments, but it seems like Ben's studio didn't have the same resources as Sony's other first-party studios. After Deke escapes Ripper territory, Ricky suddenly arrives to bring him back to the camp immediately. Boozer's in trouble. Back at camp, Addie's trying to calm him down. His arm is so infected that it needs to be amputated. He's in a delirious state but doesn't want to lose the arm, and Deke doesn't want to go against his buddy's wishes. But with his life on the line, and no way to save his arm, Deke reluctantly agrees. He helps Ricky keep Boozer pinned, while Addie gets to work hacking it off. Ouch. I know Addie probably doesn't have any anesthetic, but couldn't they give him some whiskey to numb the pain a little? Or at least something to bite on? Well, after that agonizing experience, Boozer will survive, but cutting off his buddy's arm is just another thing to add to Deke's guilt list. Though he doesn't have to worry about Boozer resenting him over it. He jokes about it later when checking in on him, and Boozer makes it clear he understands Deke had to do it to save him. But it takes him a while to adjust to his new life. As Deke sulks about what he did to Boozer, even more shit gets shoveled on his plate. Iron Mike ain't too happy he broke the treaty, even for medicine. Skizzo gets him to back off, but Iron Mike puts any retaliation from Carlos at Deke's feet. After several hours of clearing some side content, and giving Iron Mike some time to cool off, Deke approaches the big guy with an idea. While out on a jog, they spot and quietly follow a massive horde of freakers to a nearby cave, where the infected go to hibernate. Deke points out that no matter how many nests they burn, or patrols they run, the freaker population never seems to shrink. Based on what he's learned from spying on Nero, and his own first-hand experience, he thinks the problem is bigger hordes leaving scent trails behind, and that the region's cave systems give the freakers too many places to sleep. So Deke pitches a plan. If they can start sealing off the cave entrances, they can trap any freakers inside and prevent new ones from hibernating there. No sleep, no rest, maybe they move on, or never settle there in the first place. Iron Mike's impressed with Deke's thinking and says he knows where they can find the explosives to pull it off. Mike will bring Deke to Sherman's camp, and when they enter the old town hall, Mike shares the trauma he experienced during the outbreak, and how it shaped his belief in compromise and restraint. He's not naive, he's just tired of death. He wants to believe violence should only ever be a last resort. And I get it, it's that whole "we are the Walking Dead" philosophy, where the real danger in the apocalypse isn't the infected, it's each other. That part's true enough, but the Rippers aren't just another group of raiders or a rival camp. They're unpredictable psychos who attack for fun, brainwash survivors, or sacrifice them to freakers. Trying to make peace for the sake of the camp is admirable, sure, but with the Rippers, it's not if they break the treaty, it's when, and Iron Mike needs to be ready for that. In the town hall building, Iron Mike and Deke will find a map detailing where the most recent mine expansion operations took place. The idea being they can hopefully find some dynamite for their cave sealing plan. Before he can get started on said plan, Deke will get recruited by Ricky to help her get power restored to the area, and the pair travel to the nearby hydroelectric plant. Inspecting the area, Ricky thinks maybe the dam's intake is blocked with debris, and she'll hop into the water to clear it. Come on, Deke, avert your eyes. Ricky's in a relationship with Addie, and Sarah might still be alive, you dingus. Ricky gets the turbines running, but the power lines are still dead. So the pair head deeper into the plant to check the generators, clearing out the freakers inside and getting the power back online. Unfortunately, it's not smooth sailing, as just as they're getting ready to leave, Rippers show up. One of them spotted Deke and they all followed them up here. After an extended shootout with them, Ricky finds a note on one of their bodies. They're orders from Carlos telling his followers to look out for two men wearing Mongrel's original jackets, and to burn them when caught. Not to give it all away yet, but all games since our first encounter with the Rippers, every group we've been around has brought up the fact that the Rippers are hunting Deke and Boozer. Initially it comes off like revenge for Deke killing those Rippers in the opening of the game, but this note is our first hint Carlos is after them for some other reason. Later on, Deke will head to the mining camp with Skizzo and find the dynamite they need after an extended cave exploration sequence. Skizzo then proposes the idea to Deke that after Iron Mike retires, the two of them should lead Lost Lake together, not so subtly implying they overthrow the old man. Deke brushes off his idea and then warns Iron Mike, but he's well aware of what Skizzo's up to, but leaves him be because he still puts in work at camp. Sure hope you don't end up regretting that idea, old man. Circling back to our buddy Boozer, he's having trouble adjusting to only having one arm, so Deke tries cheering him up by getting his motorcycle from the old hideout. It's a nice gesture, but unfortunately it kinda makes things worse for Boozer, since he realizes he won't be able to ever ride it again. Feeling worthless that the most he can contribute is helping on Iron Mike's farm, combined with the fact he's lost the freedom he enjoyed as a biker, Boozer hits rock bottom. He starts hitting the bottle hard, and goes missing for a while until Deke finally tracks him down to a crumbling highway.
Little late for a stroll.
Hey, Deke. How's it going, old buddy?
Boozer, where are you going?
Home. That's where I'm going, home.
Oh, well, we can't go back to O'Leary Mountain.
No, I'm not going to fucking O'Leary Mountain. I'm going to Farewell.
Shit, come on. We gotta get...
You don't want to be doing that.
You want to take a swing at me? Fine. Get in line behind them.
Bring it!
Okay. So this is it? This is how we're going out?
Get out of here, brother.
No, I don't think so. Huh, Boozer? Huh?
Bro?
Boozer? The night your old lady was killed. What did I say to you?
What did I tell
Oh,
you?
what did I say to you, huh? I found you halfway through a case of whiskey. You were gonna drink yourself to death. What did I say to you?
You grabbed a bottle, and you chugged it. It was a lot of goddamn whiskey. And you told me that if I was gonna drink myself to death, you'd be right there with me. That's what brothers do.
So like I said, Boozer, is this it? This is how we're going out?
Let's get the hell out of here.
The heart-to-heart is enough to snap Boozer out of his spiral, but Deke goes the extra mile to give his friend a new sense of purpose. He gets Ricky to craft him a knife arm prosthetic, and I know what we're all thinking, so I'll just go ahead and say it.
I wonder if that guy ever wiped his ass with the wrong hand.
Yes.
Deke also brings Boozer a puppy, because nothing solves crippling depression quite like a fluffy little pal. And Boozer finally starts feeling like his old self, and eventually returns the favor when Deke needs a reality check of his own. Between missions for Lost Lake, Deke's also been working for O'Brien in exchange for information on Sarah. Multiple times he sneaks into narrow field ops, spying on researchers studying the Freakers. O'Brien suspects Nero's higher-ups are hiding something big, and slowly we learn that Freakers are constantly mutating, becoming stronger and smarter. This storyline won't fully pay off until after you've beaten the game, but for now, the spying eventually leads O'Brien to Sarah's fate. After being admitted to the Nero camp, Sarah went into surgery, survived, and made a full recovery. But then she was transferred to another facility that ended up being overrun. The only ones who made it out in time were Nero researchers, soldiers, and those with government clearance. The spark of hope Deke's been desperately holding on to is suddenly gone, and he's crushed. It's like losing her all over again. O'Brien tries to reassure him. If Deke hadn't put Sarah on that helicopter, she would have died anyway. And he probably would have too. But in Deke's eyes, that's no comfort. He'd rather be dead than live without her. Somber, Deke thanks O'Brien for everything he did for Sarah, and the two part ways. When Deke finds Boozer again, his buddy is fighting Rippers, who, for some reason, are hunting healthy dogs. Don't ask. Boozer immediately senses something's wrong, and when Deke tries dodging questions about Sarah, Boozer forces him to finally confront the truth.
Hey, come on, goddammit.
Boozer, you really don't want to be doing that right now.
Oh, yeah? You think I need more than this to take down your scrawny little ass? Come on, what'd he say?
Drop it.
Seriously, what happened to Sarah? Huh? Where's your old lady, Deke?
Where's your old lady?
Huh? Stay down, brother. Had enough? Where's your old lady, Deke?
She's dead, Boozer. Sarah's dead.
Yeah, and she's been dead a long time, so don't you think that you mourned her long enough?
When I reached this part of the game, I thought I had Days Gone figured out. I assumed Deke would eventually find out Sarah's location, ride off to rescue her, and they'd live happily ever after. But Boozer's harsh reality check combined with what happened next had me genuinely reconsidering things. Was Days Gone actually subverting my expectations? Maybe this story was never really about Deke finding Sarah, but about him learning how to let her go. After finally accepting that Sarah's gone, Deke returns to the church where they got married. He clears out a few squatters, pulls out her photo, and reflects on that day, the happiest moment of his life, now just a painful memory. Then, lighting a Molotov, he sets the church ablaze. Watching it burn is obviously painful for him, but it also feels like a moment of genuine closure. You can see in his face that he's finally ready to move forward, to leave Sarah in the past, along with his guilt and grief. For the first time since the outbreak, Deke is choosing to look toward the future, ready to build something new, instead of clinging to what's already gone. I'll admit, I was actually impressed for a bit there. With Deke finally finding closure and moving forward, it genuinely felt like we were building towards the game's finale. But, as you can probably tell by this video's length, that's not exactly how things turned out. Moving on, Deke and Ricky head out again to restore power to Lost Lake by fixing a busted transformer. After Iron Mike gives a big speech about the power of friendship, the lights finally come back on. Later, Deke and Ricky swing by the infirmary for Addie to patch him up. She's not around, so Ricky decides to handle it herself. And things almost get steamy after Deke pops off his shirt to reveal those sweet, sweet tats. Deke quietly shuts her down, but unfortunately, they're spotted by Skizzo. Now, Days Gone actually did subvert my expectations here. I fully expected Skizzo would run straight to Addie and stir up some love triangle drama. But he doesn't. In fact, nothing came from this moment for so long, I thought the game forgot about it. Instead, Skizzo approaches Deke with a very obvious trap, claiming he knows where to find the detonation cords needed for their cave-sealing explosives. Surprise, surprise, the cords just happen to be deep in Ripper territory. Deke reluctantly teams up with Skizzo to sneak in, and what they see is disturbing. Rippers dancing around bonfires, clearly high on PCP and who knows what else. Others literally LARPing as freakers, stumbling around covered in their own shit, and worst of all, Rippers sacrificing survivors to the infected. Deke and Skizzo try saving one poor woman, but her legs are broken, and there's no way to carry her out safely. With no other choice, Deke mercy kills her to spare her the agony of being eaten alive. Sneaking into a warehouse, the boys eventually find the detonation cords they need, and Skizzo finally plays the betrayal card, and we finally meet the mysterious Carlos at last.
I'm sorry, brother. It was the only way.
Do you know who I am? No. I thought rivers don't have names. We are on the path. My followers.
My followers have all given up their names. Except for me. For now.
Uh-huh. Carlos. Jesse, what the fuck?
Alright, so I had exactly one thought during this big reveal. Who the hell is Jesse? I genuinely thought I missed a cutscene somewhere, but nope. This is literally the first time Jesse is ever mentioned. The twist itself, that Carlos is actually someone from Deke's past, a former mongrel who Deke and Boozer helped hold down while their club president burned off his tattoos, should have been great. But there's absolutely zero setup for it. I get the concern about spoiling the twist, but couldn't they have at least dropped Jesse's name once or twice during Deke's flashbacks with Sarah? As it stands, there's no real impact here, because Jesse doesn't exist until the second he's revealed. Also, going back to my rant from much earlier, Is Carlos really the best name you could come up with, Jesse? You're like James Franco in Freaks and Geeks.
Alright, fine, I'll be a dwarf. But my name is Carlos.
Carlos the dwarf?
Yeah, you got a problem with that, Gorthon?
Also, I'm now just realizing someone at Ben's studio must be a big fan of Full House. Jesse and the Rippers. You know, Uncle Jesse's first band before he was kicked out. And then formed Hot Daddy and the Monkey Puppets with DJ's boyfriend, Viper. Man, I'm glad most of my audience is around my age. Otherwise, I'd feel even older if the comments were filled with tons of Zoomers wondering what the hell I'm talking about. After having his club tattoos burned off and watching the world collapse during the outbreak, Jesse adopted a twisted new philosophy. Your identity, your appearance, memories, even your name, all can be stripped away. In his eyes, everyone could become exactly the same, just like the Freakers. Now Jesse intends to strip everything away from Deke, starting with one of his arm tattoos. But he wants Boozer there too, ready for a sick and twisted reunion. Conveniently leaving the room unguarded, another member of his flock joins Deke, and it's Lisa. Oh, baby girl, look what they've done to you. Thankfully, she hasn't completely drank the Kool-Aid, and instead cuts Deke free, before explaining why she, or anyone, buys into Jesse's bullshit. The Rippers want to be like the Freakers, not to forget who they were, but to forget what they lost. Who they lost. Which, alright, I can see how Jesse can exploit those sentiments to indoctrinate people into his cult. Though why they don't just let the Freakers bite them so they'll become infected in turn is beyond me. Now free, Deke will move around the Ripper compound trying to avoid being spotted. The first half essentially a stealth section since he has no gear on him. After getting his weapons, hat, and most importantly his jacket back, Deke saves Lisa from another Ripper. She won't go with him, but she listens when Deke tells her to run the hell out of there before they hunt her down. Escaping the compound, Deke returns to the camp to find it engulfed in flames. The Lost Lake camp engaged in a massive battle with the Rippers. As Deke helps turn things around, the fighting abruptly stops when someone sounds an air horn. Iron Mike has negotiated a ceasefire with Jesse.
Mike, this is all just a big misunderstanding. They only want—
You attacked my camp. Murdered my people. You call that a misunderstanding?
You broke our treaty.
You come onto our land. You steal our supplies. You attack and you kill my people.
Mike, listen to me. I made a deal.
Hey, whoa. Weapons down. Get low. Hold.
Hi, Skizzo. I'd like to hear about that deal.
God damn it, just wait.
Why don't you tell him?
Wait.
Tell him how you sold us out to them.
What the hell do you want me to do?
Oh, fucking goddamn it, Skizzo. Why don't you tell him or I'm gonna cut your throat.
Okay. Okay! I made a deal with Carlos. Okay? Mike. But it wasn't. It wasn't to sell out the camp. I swear. It was just them. The two of them. Him and Boozer. That's all that he wants. Just them.
Yeah, how's that deal working out for you?
I did it to save the camp, Mike. I did it to fix shit. To restore the treaty he broke. Mike.
Deke. It's good to see you breathing. But let him go. Deke.
After Skizzo is exposed for the traitorous snake that he is, for a second it looks like Iron Mike might sacrifice Deke and Boozer for the sake of the others. But the old man has finally wised up and tells Jesse and the Rippers to fuck off. After what he's done to his camp and the people he's killed, there'll be no more truce. The only mercy Iron Mike is willing to give him is letting him walk out of there alive. Jesse backs down and orders his men to leave, but Deke promises the two of them will square up soon. Iron Mike is also finished with Skizzo and orders him locked up. While they may have avoided complete catastrophe, Deke knows it's only a matter of time till the Rippers come back. So he tells Boozer to gear up, cause he's got a plan, and it's a good one. Using the dynamite they have in storage, Deke plans to wipe out the Rippers all at once, by blowing up the reservoir above them, flooding them, and completely destroying their encampment, and probably causing tons of ecological damage to the surrounding areas, but no time to worry about that. After the deed is done, Deke and Boozer return to the Rippers' camp to clear out the survivors, and for one last confrontation with Jesse. Despite the 1v1 knife fight setup, Deke's senses fucked up because of having PCP blown in his face, the final fight with Jesse is stupidly easy, and ends in 30 seconds. I was expecting a little more, or for him to tag in his men while he sat it out to catch his breath, but nope, it's over as soon as it begins.
clear to me now.
Yeah, me too. Rest in peace, Jesse.
Well, that was super underwhelming. Returning to camp, Iron Mike isn't happy about what Deke and Boozer did. Deke knows, and doesn't give a fuck. He understands Mike's idealistic view, that it should be humans versus freakers, but that's not the world they actually live in. There will always be people who refuse to change, people who remain a threat no matter what. You can't convince everyone to play nice, so all you can really do is protect the ones closest to you. Iron Mike isn't exactly perfect either. For some stupid reason, he banished Schizo instead of giving him a trial. Sure hope that decision doesn't come back to bite us both in the ass. As Deke plans his next move, he spots Ricky teaching Addie how to ride a motorcycle, which triggers a memory of him teaching Sarah the same. We flash back to Deke picking Sarah up from work one day, suddenly recalling she had level 4 government clearance. That means she actually could have been evacuated. Meeting with O'Brien again, Deke's handed Sarah's old ID badge, and confirmation that Sarah did indeed get evacuated before her camp fell. She left with a recon unit heading east of Fort Rock, but the area is now controlled by a heavily armed militia near Crater Lake. It's a no-fly zone, too many outposts and RPGs for Nero to risk an approach. Still, there's a strong chance Sarah is alive, which honestly left me disappointed, because it meant my initial assumption about Deke's story being about rescuing Sarah was actually right. Instead of learning to let go, Deke's journey is about learning not to give up hope. It's also frustrating that when Deke tells Boozer, the guy who's been trying all game to pull him out of denial, Boozer immediately flips and praises him for never giving up hope, despite Sarah's survival still being uncertain. Sure, the odds are better now, but I expected some friction, a temporary falling out with Boozer, who's disappointed that Deke's still chasing ghosts and worried he'll get himself killed. But I guess the writers wanted to keep their friendship intact. Realizing there's only one way to get past the highway blockades to the south, Deke asks Iron Mike about Thielsen Pass. Mike's annoyed Deke would even ask for help after everything, but he eventually agrees, on one condition. If Deke leaves, he can never return to Lost Lake. Deke agrees, says his goodbyes to Boozer and Ricky, and heads out with Iron Mike. After a long ride, the old man takes Deke to the snow-covered peak of Mount Thielsen, shows him the path forward, and wishes him luck finding Sarah alive. The game then wraps up with Deke riding off alone as the snow clears and the sun rises, ending on a cliffhanger with Deke swearing he'll find Sarah.
If you're out there, I'll find you.
And that was Days Gone, is what I would like to say, but holy shit, the game keeps going for another 10 hours. Everything from the last few missions felt like they were building up to a finale. Even the reveal Sarah might actually be alive felt more like a sequel hook. What I thought was going to be the end was actually the middle point of the game. And Days Gone's story shifts focus, changes location, and introduces a whole new set of characters. It's not completely abrupt. The militia is foreshadowed hours before O'Brien tells Deke about them, and you'll overhear one of their transmissions on the radio. And the game outright warns that you'll be locked out of doing content in the northern regions before speaking to Iron Mike. I was a bit annoyed at first, especially when I realized those opening 10 hours of filler end up feeling worse in retrospect, but I got over it and was back on board. Interestingly, this last half of the game has the opposite problem of the beginning, as the pacing is much faster. Like there's a whole new map to explore about the same size as the first half, same side activities and camp jobs to do, but the game pushes you so much faster through the story, to the point it feels like the game is rushing to reach its actual finale, to the detriment of some new characters who either do nothing, get shoot out of the plot fast, or whose motivations change so abruptly you're trying to put together what the hell happened that made them change. Due to that, and because I know my own videos have pacing issues, I'm going to be considerably more concise here. I'm going to skim through a lot of it and slow down to focus on the stuff that actually works.
Keep shooting!
After crossing Thielsen Pass, Deke comes across 2 Deschutes County militia soldiers being mauled by an infected bear. He saves them and earns their trust, which leads them to bring him to Diamond Lake Camp, one of their militia outposts in the southern region. There, Deke meets Captain Derek Curry, who leads the camp. As they're introduced, Deke immediately notices that Curry is wearing the mongrel's MC ring that he gave Sarah before they were separated. It's the first real sign that Sarah might not only be alive, but close by. Curry puts Deke through a few missions to prove himself. After gaining his trust, Captain Curry gives Deke clearance to travel to Crater Lake, the militia's central base, and introduces him to their leader, Colonel Matthew Garrett. Garrett founded the Deschutes County militia during the outbreak, when he became frustrated by the government and Nero's response to the Freakers. Gathering like-minded men, he would raid Nero facilities for supplies, equipment, and people he could conscript to his cause, ironically impeding Nero's attempts at controlling the situation, becoming such a nuisance they pulled out of Oregon. Gaining control of the area, he had a fortress built on Crater Lake, and went scorched earth on the surrounding area, removing places Freakers could hibernate while also giving him a lay of the land that made it easy to spot potential threats heading towards the base. While the majority of the people in his personal army are civilians with the most basic of training, Garrett actually did serve in the army decades before the outbreak, though the devs confirmed he never reached the rank of officer, let alone colonel. While the guy runs a tight shift, is focused on trying to deal with the Freaker problem instead of just survival, and goes as far to preserve as many books, seeds, and equipment as he can, for the sake of future generations of humanity, it's obvious as soon as we meet him that he's not like Iron Mike. Nope, Colonel Garrett believes his mission is a divine one, that God chose him and only him to save the world, cleanse it of the Freakers and of other ilk. This is what I meant about Days Gone just rushes through this part of the story. Not only is there barely much build up to meeting Colonel Garrett, the guy is introduced like a half hour after meeting Captain Curry, but his fanatical religiousness is front and center once we meet him, making it obvious he's not entirely good, and he'll probably go off the deep end, as shown when Deke and a few others are conscripted into the militia, as he immediately dismisses the first candidate, Crystal, an ex-con, as unworthy to enlist because of her prison tattoos and past, sending her off to toil away in their farm. Luckily, Deke doesn't have any visible gang tattoos, like the mongrel's one he has on his back, so Colonel Garrett welcomes him with open arms after only seeing his army tattoo. Due to his service and Captain Corey's recommendation, Deke starts off at the rank of corporal. Colonel Garrett then gives Deke a tour of the island, showing him all the important points of interest, and introducing him to Captain Jimenez, the camp's only doctor, then to Lieutenant Weaver, the militia's chemical engineer, who's trying to develop a special kind of napalm to kill the Freakers, and finally, Colonel Garrett introduces his top researcher. Hey wait, I recognize that ass.
Sarah,
Don't. You're dead. You're dead. You're supposed to be dead.
Hey.
You're dead.
It's okay.
You're dead.
I'm right here.
Wait a second. I don't understand. I couldn't find you.
You had died, and
No, we were overrun, and we had to go south. Nero, they said
Nero,
that no one made it out.
O'Brien, and
Farewell was
way.
overrun. They said that everybody
Over the
was
mountain.
dead.
And I didn't think that
I never thought I would see you
ever see
again.
you again.
While Deke and Sarah's reunion is heartwarming at first, they immediately run into some friction as Sarah doesn't want to leave. She's too dedicated to the militia's mission to win the war against the Freakers, and has been trying to develop a poison to wipe them out. After everything he's been through, Deke refuses to leave without her, and decides he'll help. Unfortunately, the relationship soon becomes strained, due to a combination of being unable to disclose their marriage to the militia, which means they can't be openly affectionate with each other, and Sarah's frustrations with Deke not being as committed to the cause like she is. Over time though, their bond slowly rekindles as they go on missions together. Deke sees glimpses of the woman he married, while Sarah begins to lower her defenses, and she realizes everything Deke's been through trying to find her. But just as things start to warm up between them, the truth behind her work is revealed when they return to the pharmaceutical facility she worked for. Finding a classified research area, Sarah confirms what she's long suspected, that her company and the government used her research to develop a bioweapon. One of her colleagues tried to expose the truth, stole a sample to leak it to the press, and unknowingly infected himself with it. That single incident spiraled into a global outbreak, killing billions within weeks. The weight of all those deaths is why Sarah is so dedicated to helping the militia with her new research. As it's revealed soon after, when her new virus instantly kills a newt she was experimenting on, Sarah wasn't working on a poison. She was trying to make a cure, to undo the mess she feels responsible for. Deke, showing how much he's grown, and learning to appreciate everything Sarah was trying to do, tells her not to give up. If she really thinks she can make a cure, then she needs to pick herself up and keep trying, for as long as it takes, and Deke will be there every step of the way. Meanwhile, Weaver successfully finishes his napalm mix, and Deke tests it out by using it to clear out a horde. I went into it during the enemy section, but this mission is grueling. The napalm Molotov is just another tool in your arsenal, and doesn't trivialize the horde. It took me several attempts, but man was it so satisfying when I won, and I could finally catch my breath after a long, anxiety-inducing boss fight. For a while, things are actually going pretty good at the militia, but things quickly go off the rails when Captain Jimenez is murdered, and Colonel Garrett begins to unravel. Paranoid and increasingly unhinged, he confines both Sarah and Weaver to the militia's underground arc, placing them under heavy guard for their protection. While this unfolds, O'Brien contacts Deke one last time, asking him to check on a missing Narrow research team. Deke complies and finds what's left of the researchers before getting into a fight with the Reacher. In exchange, O'Brien agrees to extract both Deke and Sarah by helicopter. The following night, Deke makes his move, sneaking Sarah out of the arc for their escape, and they almost make it to the extraction point, only to run right into Colonel Garrett and his latest batch of recruits, including the Doctor of Thugonomics, Schizo. He attacks Deke, calling him a traitor, and later when the Colonel wants to know about their history, Schizo makes up a story about Deke attacking a woman, using the vaguely satanic mongrel tattoo as proof. See, told you that plot point of Schizo spotting Ricky and Deke would come back. Despite everything he's done for him, the second Colonel Garrett sees that tattoo, he's convinced Deke is just another of the unwashed ilk. He's ordered to be restrained, gets knocked out, and is sentenced to be executed.
Good. I thought I heard you breathing.
Fuck you.
That's what I want to hear. Means the shit hadn't broken you yet.
Luckily for Deke though, when he comes to, Captain Curry actually sets him free. He's seen firsthand that the Colonel has completely lost it, and he and many others have decided to go AWOL. Before riding out, Curry warns Deke that the Colonel is planning to march north and wipe out Lost Lake and the other camps, and Schizo is leading the assault. Deke rides hard, warning Boozer and Ricky of the incoming assault. He arrives just as the camp manages to beat back the militia and force them to retreat. Unfortunately, Iron Mike being Iron Mike, when he saw Schizo leading the assault, he tried to stop and reason with him before the militia pulled out, and like the backstabbing snake he is, Schizo shot the old man, mortally wounding him. Deke and Iron Mike have one final talk. He's happy Deke found Sarah, and wishes he could meet her. In his dying breath, he apologizes, admitting he was wrong, and asking Deke to do whatever he can to protect the camp. Rest in peace, Iron Mike. You were naive, but you were still a good man. With Mike gone and the militia regrouping, Deke rallies the survivors. Now isn't the time to mourn. They need to regroup and strike back before the militia can come back with backup to wipe them out. He proposes building a makeshift truck bomb using fertilizer and other chemicals. The goal? Ram it into their munitions depot and blow a hole straight through their defenses, crippling their firepower, disorienting them, and in the chaos, Deke will sneak in to save Sarah. After Deke gathers everything they need for the truck, Boozer volunteers to be its driver. Popping his mongrel's cut back on, Deke will rally the survivors again, giving a grand speech before they ride out. Also, if you maxed out your trust with the other camps, Copeland and Tucker's people will be here too. Beginning their assault on Crater Lake, Boozer and Deke will ride on the truck together to ensure it hits its target. However, when Deke wants to jump before it's too late, Boozer stays on board to ensure the truck doesn't miss.
Damn it, Boozer. Go. Get your old lady.
Boozer! No! Who's going to take care of your dog? I won't let your sacrifice be in vain, buddy. Deke will cut a path through the militia, reaching the Ark where Sarah and the others are being kept. Moving through the cave tunnels, he saves Weaver and learns Colonel Garrett is keeping Sarah, along with some other hostages in his inner chamber. Heading in that direction, Deke finishes off what's left of the militia, and gets revenge for Iron Mike.
You know something, Skizzo? There was a time when I would have dragged you out into the shed. And I would have left you to the freaks. But hey. I'm not gonna do that. You wanna know why? Because they would tear you limb from limb. But you know what? They wouldn't enjoy it.
Word life, Skizzo. It's just basic thugonomics. Reaching the inner chamber, Garrett, now completely off the deep end, is holding Sarah at gunpoint. As Deke moves to take out the old man, the colonel starts turning blue and collapses. Turns out Sarah had poisoned his tea. With their leader dead, whatever's left of the militia willingly surrender. And as revealed by Ricky, most who weren't killed by the initial explosion surrendered immediately. So Deke ended up doing most of the fighting himself. Oh yeah, and Boozer survived, by the way. He just jumped out of the truck at the very last second into the water. I'd complain about his fake sacrifice, but fuck it, I don't care. I love Boozer. Glad he wasn't blown to pieces. With the battle won and Deke finally reunited with Sarah, he gives a final impassioned speech before the game's credits.
You know, Iron Mike, he once said to me that we make the world what it is by what we do. Huh? What did we do? Huh? What are we going to do? See this? This is the first step.
I thought you weren't going to give a speech.
Yeah, I screwed up. How the hell was it?
You know, it was all right for an outlaw biker.
Outlaw biker, huh? Are you ready to ride, old lady?
I don't know, depends. Where are we going?
Wherever the hell we want.
And that was Days Gone. For real this time. After the credits roll, you'll be kicked back to the open world, free to complete any remaining side content, while also unlocking some new ones. Lisa will pop up one final time, having grown and changed from all the shit she's gone through, and she's decided to follow in Deke's footsteps, choosing to live as a drifter, running jobs for other camps. While Deke is happy she's okay and doing better, he hopes one day she'll set up roots somewhere where she feels she belongs. Also, we have one last encounter with O'Brien, and I'm not going to spoil this one, but let's just say it sets up an absolutely insane twist and sequel hook for the next Days Gone game, if it ever happens. A few years ago I'd say there's no way, but with sentiments on the game shifting, its continued sales, and the recent release of the remaster, who knows, maybe it's more likely than any of us realize. So, what did I think of Days Gone? It's a game with plenty of rough edges, but also a lot of heart, and now that I've finally played it myself, I could say there's more to like here than not. Still, I think one of Days Gone's biggest problems wasn't what it did wrong, but when and how it was released. As a Sony first-party exclusive, expectations were sky high, and when it didn't match the polish or innovation of something like God of War or The Last of Us, it got buried under the weight of those comparisons. People expected a game that was exceptional, generation-defining maybe, something Days Gone isn't, which is okay. I've said this in other videos, but there's nothing wrong with a game just being good. A 7 or 8 out of 10. Not everything needs to reinvent the wheel. But taken on its own terms, Days Gone is a flawed but worthwhile ride. It's not a masterpiece, but it's far from the failure some made it out to be. And in my eyes, that's what makes it one of the most underrated open world games of its generation. I think it's a good first attempt for a new series, and a potential sequel really could reach the heights of The Last of Us or God of War. Who knows if it'll ever happen, but I hope the remaster gets more people talking about Days Gone again, and if it sells well, who knows, maybe we will get Days Gone too. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, folks. And special thanks to my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel, including Alfred Correa, Augie Doggy, Bailey Morrison, Brad Taylor, Chicken D Samurai, Conyer, Eric Lee, Miles Garrett, Skillfuse, SR Powa, Thunder Muffin, and Reckless Nerd. If you would like to support the channel, you can do so for as low as $3 a month, which will give you early access to videos and occasionally uncut videos when I'm forced to censor things for YouTube. Higher tiers will land your name in the credits, or you can receive a verbal shout out at the highest tier. I'm going to keep the outro short this time around, so again, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and if you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribed. We're on the road to hitting 100k subs this year, so every little bit helps. I'm FuzzySlippers, and I'll see you later. Peace.